In the village of Kamugu, nestled deep in the heart of East Africa, tales were passed down for generations, warning about the Ukulu Forest. Elders spoke of creatures that roamed there at night, drawn by the scent of human flesh, and of voices that called out to travelers by name. But with the rich soil and abundant hunting, the villagers were forever drawn to its edges, careful never to stray too far in. One evening, a young hunter named Koffee prepared to set off for a night hunt. Rumors of a large dark-colored gazelle had been spotted in the forest, and Koffee, determined to prove himself, ignored the warnings. Armed only with his spear, he waited for the sun to set before slipping into the thick of Ukulu. As he wandered further into the forest, the air grew colder, and the sounds of insects and animals faded, replaced by a sinister silence. His torch cast long shadows, and he began to notice strange markings, etched into trees, spirals, and symbols he'd never seen before. The wind carried a faint sound, whispers, low and unintelligible, but distinctly calling his name. Just as Koffee decided to turn back, he spotted a figure crouched on the ground. It was an old woman, wearing a tattered cloth and clutching a small strange bundle. Her eyes were cloudy, but they seemed to see him perfectly. "Koffee, child of Kamugu," she rasped, her voice like dry leaves crumbling. "I have been waiting." Koffee's heart hammered, but he held his spear tightly. "Who are you?" he managed to ask, though he regretted it instantly. "I am no one," she said with a grin that showed only blackened gums. "But I know the forest's secret, and I know you seek it too." The old woman handed him a small stone, carved with symbols like those on the trees. "The Ukulu Forest is alive, boy, and it has chosen you tonight." He turned to leave, but the moment he looked back, she was gone, leaving only a faint rustle and the chilling knowledge that he was not alone. Koffee knew he should have dropped the stone, but something compelled him to hold it tightly. As he ventured further, the forest seemed to shift around him, the trees twisting in unnatural ways. The whispering grew louder, overlapping in a language he didn't recognize, but his name was clear. The ground trembled, and in the shadows he saw something. Tall, twisted figures with long, thin arms and faces without eyes. They moved slowly, shuffling toward him, their mouths whispering his name. Koffee tried to scream, but his voice failed him. The stone in his hand burned, searing into his flesh as if it were alive. Through the haze of pain he could hear the whispers more clearly, a dreadful chant that promised an eternal fate in the forest. Panicking, Koffee flung the stone into the darkness, but the whispers persisted, following him. He sprinted, heart racing as the creatures closed in, their eerie voices growing louder, almost laughing. No matter how fast he ran, they seemed to keep up, their eyeless faces watching him. Finally, he burst from the forest's edge, collapsing near his village, the screams of the forest still ringing in his ears. When he looked at his hand, the strange markings from the stone were branded into his skin. Days passed, but Koffee could hear whispers, even in daylight. The villagers noticed his haunted look, his refusal to speak. Soon, he vanished from Kamugu, but in the nights that followed, some swore they could hear him calling their names, drawing them toward the dark, waiting shadows of Ukulu